Hey there, welcome and Happy New Year.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for your grace as we took the past couple of weeks off. I am personally discovering how critical it is to cultivate a rhythm of rest in my work and in my life. And after a little bit of downtime, I am excited to get 2025 rolling.
Woo-hoo.
Can you believe that I'm excited, honey?
I can believe it.
Oh, yeah, you can believe it. That's good. Before we hop in, would you consider sharing your 5-star rating for the show over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify? We so appreciate your feedback and your support. That really helps us to reach more couples who are seeking practical tools and seeking hope for their blended family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really hard to believe that we reached a milestone just a few weeks ago, dropping our 200th episode that wrapped up 2024.
Yep.
And we celebrated that by doing a self-assessment of our own marriage, and we explored areas that we personally want to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we hope that you were able to catch our conversation about the 5 secrets to lasting love and maybe do a little self-assessment of your own. Focus on generosity in your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a link in the show notes if you happen to miss it. Now, today we're inviting you to kick off 2025 investing in another critical element of marriage, which is very, very serious business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fun.
Right. Being intentional around the enjoyment you experience as a couple and creating serious fun in your relationship and in your home is critical.
Mm-hmm.
So to help us explore that, we've got our sweet, fun friends, Rich and Christa Clark, with us here today.
Mm-hmm.
Rich and Christa are a blended family and thriving couple from Tacoma, Washington. They have been volunteering in the marriage and relationship space for over a decade and are moving into full-time marriage ministry with Family Life.
Mm-hmm.
Rich and Christa were both previously married and experienced divorces that they did not want. Their mission is to strengthen marriages and families in a culture that's losing hope, to help couples avoid the tragedy of divorce and enjoy a thriving marriage full of joy, friendship, and fun.
That's right. We are so excited to share our conversation with Rich and Christa with you.
Mm-hmm.
And while it is a fun conversation about fun, don't miss the value this brings in helping you safeguard your relationship by increasing your fun and enjoyment together.
Right.
Rich and Christa are going to share some of the challenges that they've faced in their unique blended family experience with one stepchild that really wasn't that interested in engaging, which sometimes puts a damper on their fun.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? We've experienced that kind of thing in our family, and we're betting you probably have too.
And just a heads up, a bit of today's conversation probably isn't for younger ears.
Ooh.
We will be talking about what you might call adult fun, just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll want to use your earbuds if you've got kids nearby.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to the Blended Family Breakthrough Podcast. We're your hosts, Mike and Kim.
We believe in a world where blended families can experience a future full of hope, connection, and peace.
That's why we offer tools, strategies, and guidance that move you from a place of confusion and conflict to experiencing a life of confidence and connection.
We're so glad you're joining us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations as we cover everything from romance to parenting, and yes, even dealing with that difficult ex.
So if you're ready to experience breakthrough in your blended family, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Well, hey, Rich. Hey, Christa. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to have you with us.
Woo-hoo!
Mm-hmm.
We're so excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having us. We are excited.
It's Rich and Christa are friends of ours that we've been getting to know over the past couple months. And
Couple months? Like a year.
Okay, over the past year. A while now. We just so enjoy them. And we thought it would be a lot of fun to have them on the podcast to talk about what they call serious business of fun in marriage.
Right. Absolutely.
So let's kick that off because that's an intriguing phrase there.
Mm-hmm.
The serious business of fun in marriage. Tell us more about that.
We first heard this concept from Ted Lowe, probably, 7 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And in his book, he was talking about
one of the best ways to protect your marriage is to enjoy it. And we just loved that quote and really have been living that in our lives. And
we were living it before we heard it, but we didn't have verbiage for it. But now we have verbiage for it. That one of the best ways to protect your marriage is to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because people don't usually walk away from something they're enjoying. And so it really serves as a way to protect your marriage, which is a topic near and dear to our heart.
Absolutely. Because when you think of when you're first dating, you are having fun. You're looking for fun. You're looking for a fun partner. And then once you get married, it can sometimes turn into a little bit more business. And so now we're figuring out parenting, and especially if you're blended like us, you're figuring out other homes and schedules of kids and all of those things that can be challenging in for a family and for a marriage. And so sometimes you just forget the fun part because you get so busy with life. And so it's important, it's serious to have fun in your marriage.
Yeah. So it sounds like you somehow have just kind of naturally perpetuated that funness. So I wonder, maybe share with the listeners, how long have you been married again?
13 years.
13 years you've been having fun. And somehow you heard this and it put words around kind of what you were already experiencing. I hope that today we're going to dive a little bit into how were you able to protect that fun experience throughout 13 years? And I know not every moment has been fun. Like I get that. But I think that that's really neat that you were already experiencing that before you even had those words to put around it.
Yeah. And you've found a way to make it a priority over all of the responsibilities and busyness of life. You found a way to prioritize the fun in your relationship.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Yeah. Tell us a little more. Why is fun such serious business for marriage?
Well, I think like it started for me really as a kid. I was raised in a pretty stable home. My mom and dad were married for 30 years, and I had two older sisters. We typically had dinner around the table almost every night. And I'm a little bit of I'm the baby of the family. I'm a little bit of a goofball. I'm a little silly, and it would get rowdy. We would laugh a lot and be silly. My dad every time would always say like, hey, we got neighbors. and he was always nervous that we're going to make so much noise that we're going to disturb the neighbors. Yeah. And we still harass him about that to this day.
Great.
But it was, we were living out in another city called Graham, by Graham. And we moved to Tacoma. And we were dropping off our youngest boy, Asher, out there at some friends. And we ran into an old neighbor 2 doors down.
In our old neighborhood.
The old neighborhood, Sandy. Okay. And Sandy, we pulled down the window. We're chatting with Sandy. And Sandy said, I miss you guys. I miss hearing you laugh. And we're like,
oh my gosh, it really happened.
Like, wait, what do you mean laugh? And she said, I could hear you sometimes laughing from your home. And we're like, from our house, like 2 doors down. And she said, awesome. Yes, I love that. And it was there that sort of things really clicked for us. Like now we wear it as a badge of honor, like laugh so loud that you disturb your neighbors.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Okay.
Raucous Rich.
Raucous Rich. That's great. Very good. Yeah.
Love that.
Say a little bit more. What would you add to that, Christa?
Okay. So to add more, I guess, professional verbiage, one of our very favorite, resources, authors, professionals in the marriage space is Dr. John Gottman and Dr. Julie Gottman.
Yep.
In his book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. That's one of our favorite resources. Yep. And he talks about friendship being the most important basis to make a relationship work. And having fun is a big part of a friendship. Otherwise, we're
Absolutely.
just business partners.
Right.
And he's talking about how friendship, having a solid friendship, leads to better sex, a lower divorce rate, and better conflict resolution. And I think part of that is because your friendship tank is so full, and within friendship is fun, but also it's safety, it's security, it's all those, it's trust, all those essential components to friendship. So that friendship tank is so full that when there is, we call it intense fellowship, when there is intense fellowship
or conflict.
Yes.
Yes, it's conflict. You're only taking a little withdrawal from the tank that's so full. And so for us, our friendship tank is so full that when we have this conflict or intense fellowship, it just detracts a little bit, and it's easier to fill back up, as opposed to what we've experienced in we call it our past life, in our previous relationships, our previous marriages, where the friendship tank was so depleted that anytime there was it was a true conflict, it just escalates so quickly. And like, it's like in the red, in the red, in the red, in the red. And we just could never fill it back up.
Yeah. And just to put just a couple of things in context, I know Mike and Kim, you talk about the Gottmans in a lot of your podcasts, but for any new listeners, John and Julie Gottman run the Love Lab at the University of Washington, and they've been studying marriages and relationships for decades. And so their research is based off of decades of their studies.
Right. Yeah, they're probably our country's leading expert when it comes to the research of relationships.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I'm willing to bet pretty much anybody listening would actually love better conflict resolution to avoid divorce or possibly another divorce. And who doesn't want better sex?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, let's just be real. Right. Yeah.
More passion, more intimacy, more
That's right.
connection.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. In his book, The Sex Talk You Never Got, this is a brand new book. It just came out a few months ago.
Okay.
It's Sam Jolman. He's a licensed therapist, which is important to us. He talks about sex as play. So you can't just start there. You have to have your friendship tank filled first. You have to have the trust, the mutuality, the respect, the safety and security. But then once that friendship tank is full, now sex is play. And they refer to foreplay as the beginning play. It's like the play before the play, and how it just is better sex, just like Gottman said.
Yeah.
Right.
And
More
The Sex Talk You Never Got, that book, it's a faith-based book. It's written by a man, generally for men. It is a very powerful book. I literally was in tears as I was finishing it. So strongly recommend that.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. That's good. All right. So it's important for us to take fun seriously because it's going to help us to keep that fun or friendship tank full. And we want that so that it creates a buffer time for when those more unpleasant moments hit, because we're all going to have them. Absolutely. Absolutely. So how do we do that? Like, how do we start to get intentional about actually having serious fun in our marriage?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. So how do we have the fun? And so really the first point there for us is the work. You got to do some work. And you just mentioned the word intentionality. That is one of our favorite words. And so we think of intentionality with our like schedule and our time. And so, for example, investing in relationships. How do you go about investing in relationships, and what does that mean to you, and what does that look like to you? So we have this open door policy. Literally, it's an open door, as in like when we go to bed, our teenager who's still at home, Asha, we keep our door open because he'll quite often get home from whatever event, if he is attending something at church or if it's at work or whatever it is. we want him to be able to come in and share. And he doesn't always, but quite often he does. He'll come in and stand at the door and share about his day, or sit on the bed and chat a little bit. Sometimes we get into all sorts of discussions there. And so I think it's really important to be able to build that relationship of trust so that you can leave that door open and make a safe place for the kiddos to be able to enter into that.
And I'll say, if the teenager wants to talk, Mama's staying up to talk.
Okay. Yeah. Man, thanks for sharing that. I love this concept of keeping things kind of open door. I wonder, how does allowing Asher to come in and kind of share about his day and have that open door policy, how does that connect to friendship for you as a couple?
For me, because Asher is my biological son, it makes me feel safe with Rich when he makes space for my son. He did adopt him, which was life-changing for me and Asher. But more than that, his lifestyle of making space for my son makes me feel safer with him, which helps keep that friendship tank full.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a bit of seriousness in that fun right there.
Yeah.
It's fun for Christa to connect with Asher at the end of his day and hear about what's on his mind and those kinds of things. And Rich has been intentional about creating that space for her. And, you know, sometimes we don't think about this kind of thing as it's related to fun, but sometimes these kinds of things really are fun for us as individual parents and as a couple. And what an interesting way to help keep that friendship tank full.
Yeah, because if we think about the opposite, if that wasn't an open door and a connection point between Rich and Asher, if that was kind of closed off, that would have a very different impact on how Christa would be able to connect with Rich and warm up to him and be trusting and open. You know, as a biological parent myself, it absolutely brings me joy and freedom and peace when I see Mike interacting with Annika in a fun, playful way, and them enjoying each other is enjoyable for me.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other part of that is serious, that's sort of a longer term, we're planting the seeds here, is that we invest in marriages and families because we don't ever want anyone to experience what we did and the pain that we went through. And we certainly don't want either of our boys to experience that. And so the other part of this is the training for Asher, as he's still in our home, to see like what a healthy and a fun relationship looks like, so that as he enters into that space, he's 19 now. And so he's not getting married, hopefully anytime too soon. But when he does, he's going to have some training there from the examples that we've tried to set.
Right. So that openness and lightheartedness and place of connection. Yeah.
So Rich, you kind of put this under this idea of scheduling and time and that kind of thing. What else can we think about when it comes to intentionality around our time and our schedule? Does it ever feel like people just don't get how tough it is to blend a family? What if you could experience a community that's all about healthy support, guidance, and practical strategies that help you thrive in your blended family? Well, now you can. Blending Together is a supportive community for blended family couples just like you.
We've educated and supported hundreds of couples navigating the unique challenges of blended family life. Now we're inviting you to join our community and experience the transformation that awaits you. Blending Together is not just another community. It's a place where you'll find practical, real-life strategies for building unity as a couple,
creating more connection as a family,
experiencing partnership in parenting,
and even dealing with that difficult ex.
Blending Together is a safe, growth-focused space where you'll get to connect with us and maybe more importantly, with other blended family couples who truly understand what you're going through. Along the way, you'll discover practical tools, guidance, and hope that empower you to find a future full of confidence and connection.
When you join Blending Together, you'll gain access to a variety of resources like our private Facebook group and online learning platform, monthly coaching meetings, monthly Q&As, and you'll even get to vote on the content for our monthly workshops.
Blending a family can often leave couples feeling alone or isolated, and quality support can sometimes be expensive and hard to find. That's why we're offering you access to all of this at a super low monthly rate, because every blended family deserves the opportunity to thrive regardless of their budget.
So scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes and click the link to join us in the Blending Together community and meet other couples just like you in our upcoming community meeting. Plus, when you join before the end of the month, you'll gain access to our brand new bonus mini course that will help you make quick headway. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. We can't wait to meet you inside Blending Together. Just click the link all the way at the bottom of the show notes to get started.
We'll see you there.
Yeah, another point of intentionality is scheduling what you want. What is most important to you, your family, your marriage? And so what does family time look like to you? What does dating look like to you in this season? And I know that that can always look different depending on how little your littles are at home. And but dating is so important. And so one of the practical tools that we have adopted is we have a shared calendar. And so Chris and I can both see what each other are doing. Like most people, most families, we have a very busy, very full schedule.
Our calendar is filled with purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this helps us to stay on track with each other. And so there isn't that situation where I'm saying, hey, I'm going over to Mike's tonight to play board games. And Christa says, wait, what? Yeah, so having a shared calendar really helps keep us on the same track and the same path. And the second part there is having a marriage business meeting. We think that is really important and key. And so what we would typically include in that is, first of all, it's really informal. We're just sitting down and chatting. But it includes going over our budget and going over our calendar so that we can stay on the same page. Like, what does this next week, couple weeks look like to us? What do we need to be aware of? Staying on the same track, staying on the same path together so that we can have fun and get to the fun. And we're avoiding some of the potential conflict because there's surprises or we weren't on the same page. And so that really falls under a little bit of that umbrella of communication and staying on the same page.
Yeah.
Hey, the business meeting piece and the planning, that is fun. What are you talking about? What do you mean getting to the fun? That's fun.
Not for everyone.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I do love that because what it does is it avoids, like you said, Rich, the surprises. And especially for a blended family couple, we don't like our expectations to be rocked. So we need to get on the same page as far as what are the expectations going into next week, next month, and stay in tune with each other. So I do love that, even though I'm not the planner, Mike is. I have learned that planning really is beneficial.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one way we actually make that business meeting fun, actually, is we'll go out for dinner.
Yeah.
And we might bring a little game with us. We'll knock out the business meeting, the marriage business meeting, and then we will enjoy dinner and play a game at the restaurant.
Totally. That sounds awesome.
Love it.
That sounds great. So we're scheduling what you want. You're scheduling your date night, scheduling your family business meeting. What's the most fun date night you remember having?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Okay, I got it.
Here's a good problem. We have a lot.
Like that's a great problem to have.
Yeah,
but Krista's got one. Krista's got one. Yeah. So what do you got?
A few months ago, I got two. He surprised me twice. In 2024, he surprised me twice with two really fun, low-key special dates. So we really love food. Okay. We love to eat and we love quality food. One of the dates he surprised me with, he's learned to tell me the wardrobe genre.
That's
Very
like,
important.
good. Yep.
You probably want to look cute or dress comfortable, be casual, dress comfortable, wear comfortable walking shoes. So we load up in the car and we head down to the local fairgrounds, and they called it the Taste.
Ooh.
And what they had was like 100 or 200, I don't know, food truck vendors lined up around the whole fairgrounds with lots of live music and entertainment. And what was extra cool about this specific event was they had most of the vendors had this $5 taste where you could get like a couple of bites of one of their offerings.
Nice.
Which is like my dream come true, because I'm an Enneagram 6. If you speak Enneagram, I'm a 6 with a strong 5 wing. So my 5 wing really likes to gather all the information. And so I loved this
bet.
good food, but from a million vendors. And so we'd get the $5 taste and we'd just share a bite, and then it was on to the next one and we could share a bite. I just gathered information all day. And then the other one, I went to high school with Danielle Cartes, which is Rustic Joyful Food. She is an excellent author and a cookbook author and cook. And they had a restaurant in Tacoma. And I just love her and her family. Last winter, she was launching her newest cookbook called Flour, Butter, Sugar, Joy. And it's the best dessert cookbook. Nice. And she was going to be in our little local town doing a book signing. And I had no idea. And I don't even know if I'd seen her since high school. But he said, "You're going to want to be cute." So I'll send you the picture. I was as cute as I could be. And he surprised me and took me to this event where they had her sparkling wine and a book signing in this really cute little boutique you could shop around. Anyway, those are my 2 highlights from 2024.
Yeah, men, you need to study your wife. Be an expert of your best friend, your spouse.
Yes.
And so I have an ongoing list on my phone. And when Christa says, "Oh, I like this," or "This is interesting," or whatever it is, I jot it down on my list. And then I just refer back to that list. It makes it so easy for me. And I can look back at Christmas time or just because adventure that we're going to go on or for whatever reason. And I can pick from that list, whether it's a board game she mentioned or a book. I knew that she loved this cooking gal and would be really interested in going to a book signing. And so I have that all on my list. And so it's really easy to refer to and to use.
The beauty of the list is you don't have to remember anything, just like Rich said. It's like zero pressure. It's low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Just add it to the list.
Christa, how does it make you feel that Rich maintains that list?
I feel cared for. I feel cared for and like I matter. And because of those things, then I feel safer and more comfortable. It's both this kind of romantical side of I feel cherished and cared for, but also that leads to more trust.
Right.
Yeah, you feel known.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And it also sounds like, Rich, and I want to commend you for this because not everyone has this skill set, but it sounds like you have a pulse on what's happening in your area. Like you're constantly on the lookout for things that your wife would enjoy, events and happenings and fun things. So
Absolutely.
that's fantastic.
Yeah. As we are shopping around or she's mentioning something, I'll just snapshot a picture of something and capture that so that I can remember to add it to the list later. And it really is cup filling for our relationship because I am investing in her in such meaningful ways. And then she is so grateful and I can see that in her. And so it truly is this win-win situation in our relationship where we're just both so excited because it feels good, right? When you're trying to invest in your spouse in some meaningful way and you nail it and it's like, it's a good feeling. I love it.
Yeah, not only is your wife feel cherished and loved and known and safe, but you're having fun together.
Exactly.
Yes.
It sounds like this one little process that's very intentional is actually a fun amplifier in your marriage. And I think to people who are listening, this totally just annihilates that idea of, well, if you really love me, you should just know these things.
Yeah, be the mind reader.
And I just want to say that's a bunch of bunk. Like Rich just said, we have to actually be students of our spouse. We have to understand what they actually enjoy. And if it takes a list to figure that out and actually keep up with that, awesome. That's romantic. It's not unromantic to have a process around this stuff. And I love that you guys embody that. So thank you for being a good example of that.
There's another layer to that. Not only are you noticing and seeking out fun things to do, but you're actually willing to engage in those things when they might not be your favorite things. And it's reminding me of a time, honey, when you surprised me with that craft fair that was going on. And I love craft fairs. I love
They're a good craft.
antiques. This had lots of fun antiques and crafters. And, you know, it's not something that necessarily floats your boat, but you enjoyed watching me enjoy the craft show, and you were willing to engage in that. Similarly, I will go to car shows and surprise you with car shows, even though I don't really care much about cars. It's still fun to go and watch him get excited.
Yeah, it's kind of a craft.
Yeah. But that is another layer to this. You have to be willing to engage in things that your spouse enjoys for the enjoyment of the whole.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Those are just such a great example of having fun in marriage.
What about you, Rich? Do you have a favorite date that you want to share?
Ooh.
Well, he does love food, so I think the taste was for him
Yeah,
too.
it was a win for me as well. Absolutely.
I love that.
We got to watch a Michael Jackson cover band. That was fun.
I think some of my favorite dates, which actually brings us into my next point here, is celebrate your differences and also find some common activities to enjoy. And that is like, you know, we're not twins, right? We're not identical people and enjoy all of the same things. We enjoy different things, but I think it's important that even as you're different and as you're married, even if you're very different, that isn't a problem. The key is just finding a couple of common activities to enjoy. For example, I enjoy hiking. I enjoy getting outdoors. Krista, not so much. She is
Not what you call outdoorsy.
Okay.
Yes. But she will encourage me to go, and she will sometimes make me a special treat, strawberry bread, so that I can get out there and do my thing.
Yeah.
But we also enjoy doing some things together. For example, we love board games, and that's probably my favorite date is getting takeout Thai food and coming home and scheduling it when maybe Asha isn't around. So it's just us at home and playing a board game and eating Thai is really one of my favorite date nights.
If we're really honest, we schedule it when Asher's not home so we can do what we call naked board games.
Oh, okay then. All right. Very good.
That's my favorite date night right there. That's it. Boom.
There you go. Awesome.
I win those games.
That's awesome. Hey, well, some of those things we were after, right, was better conflict resolution, lower divorce rate, and better sex. So there we go. Yeah. Right.
Naked.
We get naked board games into that. It's hard to have really difficult conflict when you're both standing there naked, right? Oh, that's great. That's great. What else do we need to know in order to have fun?
Well, I think one of the other things to keep in mind, along with sort of that intentionality, is get help. Get help is really important to us, and we encourage all the marrieds that we work with to get help. And so that could be something as simple as just picking a book and reading it together. It could be informative and useful and helpful. And it also is a connection point, as in when you read a chapter, you know, separately even, well, you can come back and chat about it later. And so that goes back to that last point of being able to find some common activities together.
Yeah, I love it.
And then another one is the Weekend to Remember, which we work very closely with as our job as missionaries. This is a faith-focused event. This is a marriage retreat that you get away to. They have 75 of these across the United States, and the speakers are world-class. We love the community that you'll find at these events that are so encouraging. Probably our favorite thing are the practical tools that you get at these events. And we have found that our marriage has leveled up many times as we have been to these events. And so we absolutely love these.
Yeah, so that's that Weekend to Remember marriage retreat that is hosted by Family Life. And we'll put a link in the show notes for listeners to learn more.
Yeah, so that's part of getting help, getting into community, learning new things.
Yeah, and learning alongside other couples who actually have a similar mindset as you. That can be very, very powerful.
Invest in your relationship.
Yeah, that's great. What else?
It's fun also, Weekend to Remember, there's a built-in date night in the weekend. So it's fun.
Yeah.
Practical tools and fun.
And there's 75 of them. So we
Across
could,
the country,
every week and a half, we could go to a date night.
There's one near you.
And travel is fun.
Oh, we love travel. Yeah, that's good. So that's great. You know, sometimes when you said one of the points is to get help. And I think a lot of times people go straight to, oh, we got to go to a therapist. But I love, like, your first couple points here is, well, actually, there's tons of resources out there, books or online courses or whatnot. Read, watch a video, and then come back and share. That is getting help. Or going to an event like the Weekend to Remember can be getting help, right?
And
so we don't have to
include
overthink
fun.
it. Yeah, and be fun at the same time. Yeah.
Yep.
What else?
Listening to a podcast like Mike and Kim's podcast.
Yeah, that one's okay. That one's okay. There's a lot of them out there, but this one's all right. Yeah.
We'll listen and then we'll discuss, but also we'll share it with some friends. Like, it was so timely. You just, I don't know, a year ago or so, you guys had released an episode. It was about when you have adult children, but then as an adult child, you're a parent getting remarried and how kind of awkward and clunky that can be. Well, that released right at the same time. Some good friends of ours, his dad was getting remarried and he was struggling. And we're like, oh my gosh, we have this perfect episode for you.
Yeah,
and so we discussed together, but also we can share with others. We are big fans of therapy because this life is hard, and especially blending. And until kind of recently, the last few years, there's not been great tools for blended families.
Right.
And so finding somebody who's a few steps further down the road just to offer a sounding board, some feedback, some practical tools. So Rich and I are both in therapy with a licensed therapist, but also we love your program, the Relate Strong, which we have gone through with you guys. It is excellent. And having those practical tools to get us through those hard moments helps us get back to fun quicker.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I just kind of was hearing, is this kind of getting help idea is an investment in having fun. And sometimes going through the process of that, we are definitely pro therapy as well. And we have benefited greatly, both of us, from our counseling experience. But absolutely, that's an investment into having more fun as a couple, because when we start to actually resolve stuff rather than letting it pile up under the rug, then it's much easier to dance around on a flat rug in the living room than it is to trip over all the stuff that's under it.
Yeah, that's been swept
because we're just keep shoving it under the rug, right? And so I absolutely love that. And in fact, so you just mentioned Relate Strong, so I got to give a little shameless plug here for a moment.
Please.
One, we have benefited so greatly from Terry and Sharon Hargrave, who developed that process. And so it's not necessarily our program. We just get the opportunity to deliver it to couples, which is amazing.
Yeah, we love it.
And we have benefited greatly from Mike and Kim coaching us on that product.
Yep.
It has
We've
helped
been
us
through the program
in our marriage and in our personal lives. It's a very powerful tool. Strong recommend.
Thank you so much. And in a future episode here pretty soon, we're going to have Ron and Nan Deal on the show, and they're going to talk even deeper about exactly what that program is and about their new book coming out that shares all about it. So make sure if you're listening right now, well, of course you're listening if you just heard this, but so to our listeners who just heard that, make sure you keep an eye out for an upcoming episode with Ron and Nan. Yep.
Yeah. And if I could just backtrack a little bit to this idea of therapy, whether it's counseling, coaching, whatever that looks like, often what that does is it brings about some fresh hope. Sometimes, especially, blended couples. Christa, you said it. This is hard. This is a tough gig. And often we see it all the time. Couples show up for a session with us and they are just heavy. Like they're stuck. They're feeling helpless and hopeless. And you just see it on their face. There's this burden they're carrying. And then they get this opportunity to talk about what's going on. And like you said, some accountability and some openness to talk and work through some stuff and get stuff up off their chest. And by the end of the session, they're so much lighter because they have some new hope that, we can talk about this. We do have some new strategies we can apply. This isn't hopeless. Yeah. And so that place of hope, again, frees us up to receive and interact in a playful, fun way later on.
I love that, Kim, because I think that another aspect of that is isolation. I think that so many of us feel like we're the only ones going through that. And so when you get into that community, whether that community is a small community or a large community, and just knowing that we're not alone in this, we're not the only ones, can bring, again, such hope like you're talking about.
Yeah. And relief. I mean, I can't tell you how many times at the end of a session, Mike will ask the couple, what was most impactful for you? And how many times we've heard just being able to talk to people who get it. Yep. Because we don't have that as blended couples out there in the world. Absolutely. Our friends and our relatives, even they have good intentions, but they just don't get it. And just to be able to unload and have someone know, yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point, honey. Keep going. What else do we need to know about having fun?
More fun.
One of my favorite things about Rich, and one of the biggest reasons I wanted to marry him, not only was he super involved with his own son.
Got a cool accent.
Oh,
I was going to say, that's what I thought.
Yes, I did marry him for his accent.
Yeah. And a really killer hairdo as well.
Oh, yes.
Here we go. Here we go.
Hair jokes. Can't get enough of
That's
them.
right.
Here we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I love it.
Just for the context here, both Mike and Rich are bald.
They're twinning.
They love the hair jokes.
That's right.
Yes.
All right. Sorry. This is serious stuff.
Yeah,
so one of the
serious
reasons
business.
that you wanted to marry Rich.
Yes, was I had never seen a man so quick to own his part and ask for reconciliation, restoration, forgiveness. And so I have experienced plenty of conflict in my life, especially in my previous marriage. Never, ever, ever had I experienced this until Rich. He is so quick to come to me when we have some conflict. We typically will allow some space, like calm down, let emotion settle a little bit. And then he'll come to me. Almost always, he is coming to me. Though he is the most immature in our relationship.
Another reason why you wanted to marry him.
Yeah.
Thank you, babe.
It keeps him fun. But he's the most mature in this aspect, actually. He comes to me almost always. And whether his part is 5% or 95%, he's owning his part. And if he doesn't know what his part is, he'll ask, help me understand what happened here. And then he does his best to then rectify, or like, oh, I didn't mean that. Let me tell you what I actually meant. Or that is what I meant, but I'm sorry that hurt your feelings. I mean, we both say stuff.
Yeah, we're trying to follow that principle of keeping a short account with one another. And so, Mike, you had mentioned earlier sweeping things under the rug, and that's an unhealthy way to do relationship, right? And so
Right.
keeping these short accounts and owning your part leads to something that Christa mentioned earlier, and that is reconciliation to get to the fun. Like, we want to get through this hard work so that we can play naked board games.
Perfect. Yeah, I know. Because if we let that stuff pile up under the rug, we're not going to ever get to the naked board games. Yeah,
No.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love it.
So reconcile to get to the fun.
I
I
love
love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Keep going. What else you got for us?
Well, some of the other things is about the fun in your home. Like, what does the culture of your relationship or your marriage or your family or your home, what does it look like? Every home has it. Every relationship has it. What does yours look like? And so, for example, do you have your own language or secret handshake? And so, for example, we quote movies and TV shows all the time. And that is a silly little thing that we do, that we will be in the middle of a conversation at the dinner table. Somebody will say something and Christa just turns to me and says whatever silly quote from whatever show. And I just get it. We just have this secret language, and it's not putting anyone else down. It's not hurting anyone. It is just silliness and fun. And we will just have our little private giggle and move on with life. But it is these little private giggles that we have throughout each day that just makes it fun and enjoyable.
It's like micro moves of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Micro moves of fun. That's good. We get that. I know if I can place a quote from either The Office or Seinfeld, I can always get Kim to giggle.
Yes.
I can always get her to giggle. And she's not a laugher. Like it takes a bit to get her to laugh, but I can always make it happen if it's something related to those. Yep.
Identity theft is a serious crime, Mike. Michael!
Okay, Dwight.
Yeah, okay, Dwight. Yeah. Very good.
And so in this, like, think of silliness, think of playfulness. Our lives can be so full of that business and hard work, and things can be difficult at times. So think in terms of silliness and playfulness, like, what can you do? And so, for example, I don't even know, babe, do you even know how this happened? Somehow we started this tradition when Drew, my son, who's 25, he was a little guy, 10, 11 maybe.
Well, he was 12 when we were married. So he probably was 14.
Math is hard. And so we decided, instead of just saying, happy birthday, Drew, on the birthday cake.
That's so boring.
Yeah. We're judging you if you do that right now. I'm kidding. But we decided to put movie quotes or TV show quotes, or sometimes a quote from our life, on your birthday cake. And so for every birthday cake, you never know exactly what is coming.
We always order our cakes either from Costco or from Dairy Queen. We love ice cream, and we love ice cream cakes. And I'll go in to fill out the form to request whatever cake with whatever quote, and they will literally call me, hey, is this what you meant? Did you really,
just
really
double checking?
Yep, that's what I want on the cake. You got it.
Best time was when it was a quote from Ant-Man, and he said, somebody peed in my pants. And so that was the quote, somebody peed in my pants. And then you specify the color you want the writing in. So blue, I wrote in blue.
Okay.
Well, the quote, when we went and picked up the cake, it literally said, somebody peed in my pants in blue. And I'm like, you know what? That just made it even better.
Now you have something to add to the quote
that
when you
is
use
awesome.
it.
Yes.
That
makes for a great family joke.
And I was so confused. I had no idea what was going on.
So was the cake designer.
I love the anticipation of not knowing what quote you're going to get on your birthday.
Yes, that's great. That's great.
fun.
And what you're describing here is this culture of fun that you're creating. And Rich, I love this. One of the stories you started with is like this started as a kid where even your dad had to like calm you guys down.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
neighbors exist, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like that's just continued
Raucous
to carry
Rich.
through. Yeah.
It also involves the kids. And so, for example, if Krista's birthday is coming up, Asha and I will collab on, okay, well, what quote are we going with for Krista's birthday, and vice versa. And so there's this fun element that involves the kids as you're figuring out, like, okay, well, we'll make a few quotes, a top 5 list. What's your favorite? And so it just is fun. We love it.
Absolutely.
That's a great idea.
What else do you guys do to create a culture of fun?
Okay. All right. Don't judge us, people.
Or do. It's fine.
Okay. So when we were first married, I went into the bathroom.
Gonna throw me under the
I'm
bus.
totally throwing her under the bus. I went into the bathroom and the toilet paper was gone. Now, I'm sure none of you have ever experienced that ever
Right.
Or
in
done
your
it.
relationship. Yeah. And so I wrote on the toilet paper roll, "Not cool, man." And I sat it next to her bed. I have a picture of it still.
My bedside table right next to my chicken catalog.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so we were just teasing each other about it. Well, that evolved into what we affectionately call the toilet paper roll war, which means that we will open up something, whether it is my lunchbox or in my pillow or in a sleeve of my shirt or where in my socks, wherever it is.
Toothbrush.
Yeah.
Nice.
We will find toilet paper rolls everywhere.
Okay. I have to ask. So, Rich, you find a toilet paper roll in your sock.
Yes.
Now is it retaliatory time where now I have to stash that somewhere else, or do I just throw it away and we wait for the next one?
Oh, we don't waste those precious gifts.
So over 13 years, you guys must have accumulated a ton of toilet
We
paper
literally
rolls.
have a stack in our bathroom right now, because then what we do at like Christmas or birthdays, we'll get a big old box, from Amazon. We have plenty of those for a little tiny gift. And we load the whole box. It's like toilet paper roll confetti.
Nice.
And that's triggering a memory for me of a fun ritual that I had with my daughter Annika, who was only with us 50% of the time. And we all know how hard that is to only have your kids around half time. But we had this she was really obsessed with Asian culture for a very long time and still loves sushi, loves Asian culture. And I had this little Asian doll. I mean, not very big. It was like maybe 4 or 5 inches tall.
Yeah. It was hollow.
It was hollow, and it had a little secret compartment, and we would hide notes for each other. So I would write a funny little note to her, hide it in the doll, and then hide the doll somewhere in her room or her bathroom or somewhere. And then when she would find it and come across it, then she would do the same. And usually, I would leave her a note that she would find as soon as she came for visitation. And then she would leave it for me when she was leaving. So I would get a note after she left. And we had this ritual for years and years that went on, and we would save the little notes. But yeah, it was just fun and playful. And also there were some meaningful things on those notes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
So now you could actually add elements. You could write a really meaningful, touching
some
note, as opposed
affirmation.
to "not cool, man." We could actually write a little simple "I love you" on it or something like that. So there we go. We can up our game with the toilet paper.
So I love your strawberry bread. Yeah.
Yes.
That is
That's
his hiking
awesome.
treat.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. And all of this that we just kind of worked through is really rooted in that idea of how do you create a culture of fun?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we work with a lot of blended family couples on is identifying your family values and articulating them in a way that honors both spouses' perspectives and then delivering that to the kids. And I remember years ago, we were on a camping trip, and this was kind of early when we were developing the concept of how do we help couples do this? And we were just sitting around the campfire, and asked our kids, hey, if you had to like name our values that we actually live out, what would those values be? And they listed some stuff. It was actually really emotional for me to listen to.
Yeah.
But one of the things, I think it was Jacob that said it, he was like, fun. I think we actually have a lot of fun as a family. And I was like, I love that he identified that. And it did take some intentionality to actually kind of bake that into the culture of who we were as a family. So I love that you call that out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this idea of blended families adds a different element or a different dynamic than what a first family does. You guys know that from experience. So what are some things that maybe come to mind for you as it relates to fun, and how do we do that like in the step family realm from your perspective?
Along the same lines of what you were just talking about, Mike, I would say define your fun, because we love food and board games, but not everybody loves board games. So Kim, you love crafting.
Mm-hmm.
For the first thing is you got to define your fun, and then also help your kiddos define their fun. And so Asher loves fishing and video games and tech. So every once in a while, a handful of times a year, I will ask Asher if we can have a Mario Kart date, and we'll just take a couple of hours and we'll play Mario Kart. Rich has taken Asher fishing before. I will not go fishing. That is disgusting to me. But it's finding, or like with Drew, we didn't have him in our home for too long. But like as a teenager, it's so hard to connect with. And we were married when he was 12. And that's such a hard age, that middle school age. Like that's hard anyway. Yeah. But then blending families, and Asher and I moved into his home and everything changed for him. And so really just trying to go at his pace. Ron Deal talks about honoring where they're at. He refers to it as a door. Like, how open is this door? Do you have a crack? Did he crack the door and that's what you have to work with? Then honor that. Yeah. Is the door still shut and like we're not in at all? You just talk through the door in a gentle way. And so like there was two ways that he would crack the door for me just a little. Okay. And one was Starbucks. And so he'd get off the bus after school, and I'd pick him up at the school bus and we would just go drive through. And that was all I got. Like we didn't get to come home and then like sip our coffee and chat some more. No, I would get about 7 words in the car, through the drive-through, back home. Yep. And that was it. And I took it.
That was a win.
That was a win.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There was one time he got to compete in a chili cook-off with the youth group. And I'm a cook. And so I helped him make homemade chili and homemade bread bowls. And it was the bread bowl that put him in the winner's circle. And so he won the grand prize. And so it's defining your fun and honoring, at least as a step parent with the step kid, honoring how much they'll let you in, truly honoring it, like not pushing your way through the door and not demanding more, but just kind and gentle. And if you give me 2 inches, I'm going to celebrate 2 inches. And if you just have that door shut, then I'm just going to hang out I'm going to play board game with your dad outside this door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fully clothed.
Fully clothed.
Yes. Please.
Yeah. When the kids are home, clothes are on.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that thought process. And it's so true to the blended family dynamic, particularly in the early years. We really need to move at the pace of the child. Too many times I think we come in and think, well, as an adult, I get to call the shots, or I'm the parent now, or
I
things
should be
like
acknowledged.
That. Exactly. But we're going to find out that slowing down speeds things up. And when we can actually honor where they're at and be present in the midst of that without forcing our way in, it's actually an invitation and it reduces pressure. And when we can come from that perspective, it actually starts to speed things up. Doesn't mean it's always going to be perfect. It doesn't mean I'm going to be best friends with my stepchild, 6 months from now, just because I'm doing that. but it's such a better way than just trying to force our way. I love the door thought process. I'm not going to kick the door down and be like, I'm here now and we're going to have fun, darn it. Like that's not going to work. Right.
But I'm wondering, Krista, because we work with lots of step parents that are feeling rejected by a stepchild. Like they, say good morning to the child and the child gives no reply, won't even make eye contact, just completely ignores them. And it sounds like you were a bit on the receiving end of that as well, to some extent, where there wasn't a lot of engagement. And that's not fun for a step parent who takes it personally and feels like Mike just said, wait, I'm the adult here. You should be respecting me and you should be giving me this. How did you manage your own emotions through that and stay so positive? I just have to ask, because you really are positive as you tell the story of.
I did not stay positive all the time because
there were tears.
There was lots of tears.
Oh, understandably.
Yeah. I don't know. I think just naturally I am a people person, recovering codependent, shall we say. And so being kind matters to me because I don't ever want to hurt your feelings. And so I think in a blended scenario that lent to my favor. And so I almost always, not without error, not without flaw, but I almost always leaned on the more gracious side of things. I did want more, but I think too, let's talk about respect, because I think there's a difference between respecting someone and having respectful behavior, or like a posture of respect. And so maybe I'm in the minority, but I believe that respect needs to be earned, much like trust. But respectful posture, that's just mandatory. Like I don't have to respect you to have respectful behavior. That's a me thing. I can control my behavior. And so Drew did not respect me. And I don't actually know if he does now. I would say not much, but that was always kind of, I guess, a requirement, a value in our home is like, but you don't have to like me or love me or even respect me. But in our home, we have a posture of respect. That's a value.
Right.
And you can say whatever you need to say in a respectful way. And that doesn't mean without emotion. Like I'm a highly emotive person. And so I have lots of emotions. Right. And so like emotions are not the problem. It's this, when you have this like super angry, disrespectful communication, it really lends to contempt and just that there's nothing productive that comes from that space. And so, like we did the best we could with very little tools.
It sounds like you were very intentional. So we're coming up on 24 years married now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. We have had some fun along the way.
We have.
At least the last year or so. Yeah.
1 out of 24. That's not bad.
Krista, what I just heard you say is that a step parent can internally not feel respect for a stepchild, but still own their own stuff and actually treat that stepchild respectfully from an external standpoint. I wish someone would have told me that 24 years ago when we first got married, because that was an area that I struggled with. When I felt disrespected by Annika, sometimes I would respond in a disrespectful manner. And how crazy is it that I'm saying, you need to respect me, and I'm doing it disrespectfully? Like seriously? And so much of that is just rooted in my own pain, as opposed to actually saying, hey, what's going to be the best to create the culture in this blended family that we really want to create? And so what you just said was very powerful, and I wanted to highlight that. Our listeners need to hear that.
And I think for the listeners, it's important to understand, like as Mike, you're sharing, man, I blew it, right? And me too. So many times I blew it. And so I think that the encouragement here for the listeners is that, like, even if you blew it 13 years ago, 24 years ago, or yesterday or today, it's okay. You are not alone. We are blowing it in some way or another every day, but we can reset. We can get help. And I think it's Gottman that talks about.
I was just going to say. Repair attempts.
Yeah, repair attempts. You can develop that trust and that love in your family, with your spouse, with the kiddos, by the way that you handle those mistakes. And so have hope in those mistakes. But tell us a little more about that repair attempt.
Yeah, Dr. Gottman discovered in his love lab, he's talking about couples, so not necessarily like parent-child, but I would think that the same principle applies.
Yep.
In couples, it's not that there wasn't conflict. The strongest relationships, it's not that they didn't have any conflict, it's how they repaired the conflict.
Right.
That mattered more than whether they had the conflict in the first place or not. And then full circle back to friendship, you have this friendship and you have these, he calls it a bid for connection, where you do a silly thing to try to diffuse the heat, the anger, the frustration, and then you can work towards restoration.
Right. I love that. Repair is so critical. And you're absolutely right. When we learn to do conflict well, that so increases our intimacy. Yeah.
And I just want to highlight one other thing about what you shared there, Christa, in your relationship with Drew, is that, okay, you're only getting a crack. Sometimes probably the door was closed to you. You got very little. You wanted more. And often that can plant seeds of resentment in a step parent. Like, if I'm not getting what I want, then I'm just going to withhold from you and withdraw from you. We see that often, but that wasn't your posture, because then this chili cook-off opportunity came along. And instead of saying, no, you know what, I'm not getting what I need out of you, you're going to have to deal with that on your own, you jumped into that opportunity. Here's a time when I can show up where there's a common interest, yay, and actually be there for him. And I would bet that there were big respect points earned in that little chili cook-off experience with Drew that you would have missed otherwise had you not kept your heart soft towards him, even when you were being rejected.
That may have been little seeds planted that are still germinating. Even if you don't see the fruit of that yet, there is some possibility that those are still there.
So I love that piece of the story, though, that you were still willing to be there for him and to help him and encourage him and celebrate his win with him, even though it was hard. It was a struggle.
Keep showing up.
Well done.
All right. What's maybe one more thing from a step parent or a step family situation of how do we have serious fun? How does that apply to step families?
I think part of it, similarly to what we were just discussing, is to adjust expectations. So as a step parent, or maybe even a bio parent, we go into this marriage, at least we did. We went into this marriage with certain expectations. And honestly, with Asher, it was so much easier. He was 5 when we were married, and he was just a more tenderhearted, relational human.
Yeah.
And his bio dad was basically just gone, just MIA. And so it was easier for Asher to connect with Rich.
Right.
And the fact that Rich was so fun and playful and silly, that was really easy. For Drew, it was more complicated because his bio mom was very in the picture. His parents had a 50-50 split before Asher and I ever entered the picture.
Yep.
And so we come into this marriage with certain expectations that our boys will receive each other, we'll receive each other and we'll receive us as the parents. And it happened halfway, but not the other half. And it would have been helpful to us to have that training when we were first married, to adjust our expectations. And Kim, like you said, like, my feelings were hurt and I did feel disrespected and I was frustrated and sometimes mad. And Rich said there was lots of tears, but also it was essential to me to keep my heart soft enough that if Drew opened the door just a crack, I'm going to take it.
Yes.
To me, there's always hope. Like, a principle that I live by is that no one is hopeless. There is hope for everyone at all times. And I hoped for that with Drew, that there is hope, that there could be some reconciliation, some restoration, a tiny baby relationship developed. And honestly, there has not been. That one is still hard for us. But Asher has an excellent relationship with Rich. And so adjusting expectations will at least helped me not get so angry or so triggered or so frustrated or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier to move at the pace of the child. Well, each child can have a different pace, and that's hard to understand.
Yeah.
What would you add to that, Rich?
Well, other than expectations, I think that just one of the most important things is allowing the kiddos to see parents having fun. There's a healthiness in that, there's training in that. And so one of the questions is, do your kids know that you like each other?
Yeah. That's a great question.
Yeah, you had talked about that a little earlier as you guys are having conversations with the kiddos about like, what does our family look like and mean to you? And I think you said it was Jacob who said, we have fun.
Right.
And it's like, gosh, that must have just filled your love tank.
Yes.
To hear that from one of the littles.
Yep.
And so I guess my encouragement to the listeners today is maybe your kids wouldn't answer that in the way that you want them to today. But what's one thing that you could do today or this week that would be a step towards that?
1% better.
Yeah. And so if you want your kids, if you think of your littles and you want your kids to have beautiful, fun marriages, what example are you setting for them today in fun?
Yeah.
Show them how.
Show them how. Have fun doing it. And be a great example and have more fun in your life.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's one thing.
Yes. One simple thing you can do this week to model fun in your family. And that's a huge investment. No matter where the kids are in their age or stage of development, every day they're getting closer to launching into adulthood. And you're either equipping them today or you're not. And the question is, what do you want to do to equip them today and this week? Yeah. I love that, Rich. It's such a great thought. Thank you for sharing that.
As we are wrapping up here, if you could give one piece of advice, Christa, what would you say to our listeners around this serious business of having fun?
Yeah, if you could only say one thing, what would you tell them to do?
Only one.
Only one.
Mercy. Well, I guess just that concept that fun is fun, but it's also serious and needs to be a priority.
Love it. Yes. Rich, what would you say? One thing to couples that they need to know about fun in their marriage?
I think that I would have to say,
I want to say his for him. Can I have two? I'll say mine.
For me personally, more naked board games. Definitely. I think it's really important to remember, just sort of going back to that sort of expectations thing. It's important to remember, listeners, that you are not alone. No matter where you're at today, you are not alone in this, and there is help to be had, and there is fun to be had. Maybe you're not feeling that so much this week as you're listening to this, but I promise you, we can have fun. And so I would be looking for those ways, whatever that looks like to you. It can be inexpensive and silly, like toilet paper rolls, or it could be a fun date night. But I would just be looking for, how do you invest that into your relationship in just small ways, starting this week?
Yes.
Okay. To piggyback on that, just while you were talking, I just saw it like, how do you let fun kind of like sift into the cracks of this really hard, maybe previously broken, we're trying to mend. And then it made me think of kintsugi, which is that unique Japanese art where they intentionally break a piece of pottery, a bowl, a glass, whatever. They mend it back together with gold.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now it's literally art. And so I just saw the fun coming in, like this kintsugi gold into these cracks of life. It may not always be a big extravagant, like we didn't even talk about going to Disney. We've never been to Disney.
Sure.
It's these tiny little micro moves of fun that settle through the cracks of a really hard life.
Yes.
But it's so important and makes it beautiful.
What a great visual, Christa.
Love that.
Thank you for sharing that. Wow. Hey, I know that you both have such a heart for marriages. I know that you're working with Family Life in the Northwest and you're doing all kinds of things. If somebody's listening and they're like, we just need some more encouragement, some more support, we need to reach out to Rich and Christa, how do they find you?
What a privilege. Well, our website is richandchrista.com.
Great. We'll put that link in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you guys go there, you'll see my bald head, so you'll get the
awesome
the bold jokes reference.
How long did it take you to get ready for that picture?
A long time, Mike.
Wonderful.
He wore his finest black shirt.
Awesome.
Very good.
I love it.
Good.
Well, what a privilege to just hang out with you guys today and talk about this serious business of fun.
Yes.
It is such an important element of investing in our marriage. Yeah. And we hope as we launch into 2025, when this episode drops, that listeners take this idea of fun seriously. We really want to encourage you to do that.
Yeah. And I just want to say thank you to Rich and to Christa for bringing fun into our lives.
Absolutely.
We always laugh so much when we're with you, and you bring that sense of fun and adventure and inspire us to create more fun in our relationship. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for being here today.
Absolutely.
What a blessing.
Thank you so much for having us. It was truly a privilege to be here today.
Yeah, we're grateful. It was a blast.
Thanks so much. Hey, that was a lot of fun.
Yes, I don't think I'll ever look at an empty toilet paper roll again without thinking of Rich and Christa and just chuckling to myself, right?
For sure, yeah. And I'm not so sure I'll ever be able to play a game with you quite in the same way again.
Uh-oh.
Hey, we hope that as you listen today, you were able to identify some steps that you can take to increase the fun in your relationship as we move into the new year. Why not kick off 2025 by intentionally investing in something that's fun and playful and maybe a little raucous, or anything that creates deeper levels of enjoyment and connection in your relationship and in your home?
And if your family seems to experience some tension when everyone's together, don't panic.
Yeah.
In blended family dynamics, it's common for tension to rise when the whole family is all together. And if that's something your family struggles with, we encourage you to discover and try out some strategies that we found to be successful in lightening the tension and creating genuine connection for blended families.
Yeah.
Back in episode 136, which is called How to Intentionally Create Positive Family Time and Reduce Relational Tension, we share some practical ways to experience more enjoyment as a family. So just click the link in the show notes to check that out.
Or try episode 146 called Friendship and Connection, or Friction and Distance. Like, what's the state of your relationship? In that one, you'll discover the most common easy wrong turns that couples make that can dissolve their friendship. And then we'll give some practical ways that you can grow, maintain, or rekindle the friendship factor in your relationship.
Yes. And as we look forward into the new year, we're so excited to be hosting Ron Deal and his wife, Nan, here on the show to share about their brand new book called The Mindful Marriage, which is all about creating your best relationship through understanding and managing yourself. Trust us, you do not want to miss that episode.
Definitely not. Rich and Christa kind of mentioned this Relate Strong coaching program that they went through with us. Well, Ron and Nan have written a book that focuses on that same framework. It's all about breaking free from painful patterns of conflict that create disconnection. Imagine building stronger connection and making real progress to resolve the tough issues that you face so that you can simply enjoy your relationship more.
Absolutely. We are so excited about their new book, and we can't wait for you to hear what they have to share with us in just a few weeks.
But now we're going to make this episode a wrap.
Until next time.